And we're back. This is Hook and Ladder. We are week 8?
9.
9. Wow. This season just flying by. Well, I guess we're just going to get started right into the mix. I didn't see anything Thursday night.
I watched a little bit of the Syracuse game, but I watched pretty much the whole Florida Atlantic Charlotte game, just because it was football. It was on TV.
So
nothing really of note in that game.
Yeah.
Both teams have some players. Actually, the only thing I want to mention is Tom Herman is the coach of Florida Atlantic. Yeah. I had no idea.
Yeah.
How that dude fell.
Yeah, he dropped like a stone, didn't he?
He was like the next hot up-and-coming coach that can't miss, goes to Texas, didn't happen, beat Georgia in a Sugar Bowl. We can talk about that, the motivation for Georgia that particular year.
Right.
Was kind of a jerk in the postgame, and then he beat Missouri in a game, and then Drew Lock had that thing where he'd throw a touchdown, he'd be like the backpack thing.
Yeah.
And Tom Herman's like making fun of the kid on the sideline doing that. And I don't know, I just didn't really have a lot of respect for him after that. It's not really how a head coach acts. And then he gets canned. And look at Texas now, and he's at Florida at Atlantic.
Yeah, I'm sure at some point in time he'll get another good big job.
I'm sure somebody's going to eventually go after him, if nothing but maybe a big name school, coach gets him as an offensive coordinator, and he goes up that way.
That's right. Well, let's go ahead and talk about Saturday's games. Georgia knocked off Florida in dominant fashion, 43-20. We watched it at your place.
Yeah, I mean, we've watched Georgia play some pretty crappy teams this year, some bottom feeders, and they haven't looked good playing those teams. They score a lot of points. They end up winning 45-20, but they just don't look right. They don't look as crisp as they did the last couple of years. And then you remember that they kind of did this last year as well. They play teams like Kent State, and they give up 21 points. They don't look great doing it. Then when they play conference games against teams that are pretty good, Kentucky and Florida, they destroy them. Yeah, it's like they flip the switch. Yep. Offense was looking really good. Didn't even notice Brock Bowers wasn't in the game. Offense looked really good. A lot of different guys catching the football. McConkey looked great, had over 100 yards. Dominic Lovett looked great. Everybody looked good catching the football. Running game looked pretty good. And the thing I was impressed with was Oscar Delp's blocking. He blocked extremely well. Defense looked good, had a bunch of sacks, a couple forced fumbles, and they did block the punt. They looked good. They looked like the number one team in the country. And it's like, wow, this is the second time all season we've seen it. But I think you're going to start seeing them look this way going forward.
Well, we got big games next week as well. Ohio State, Wisconsin. Ohio State knocked off Wisconsin 24-10. Wisconsin just didn't have the horses to keep up.
No, they don't. Wisconsin has no skill guys. And Ohio State didn't look great offensively either. And I've been very critical of the Big Ten, and I'm not dogging Ohio State. Ohio State, Michigan, they deserve where they're ranked.
Right.
But the rest of that conference is crap. And the fact that Ohio State now can basically sleepwalk offensively pretty much through an entire game 2 weeks in a row, and they don't have any, I don't care what the score is, at what point in the game, there's not a threat of them losing the football game. Wisconsin has no playmakers on the outside. They don't have any good running backs. It was the same as last week with Penn State. There's just no guys that you feel can threaten them and put pressure on the defense. Where maybe they got to we got to score 35 today to win. That's not happening. And it's a huge detriment, in my opinion, to the conference. I think that's going to change when Washington, Oregon, teams like that go to the Big Ten. But if you look at these teams, they're not bad football teams.
No.
They just lack the explosive playmakers. And that to me just kind of, you look at other conferences and you look at all these different teams in the mix. You got the Pac-12, the Big 12, and the SEC. And now with UNC losing the ACC, it's kind of Florida State to lose, but number 2 in that conference is a lot of teams going for that spot. It just seems like there's nothing in the Big Ten other than Michigan and Ohio State.
That's what it's looking like. Florida State knocked off Wake Forest 41-16. I think Florida State's kind of just asserted themselves.
Yeah, I watched this game yesterday before you came over, and Florida State looked good. They looked the way that you're supposed to look when you're playing a vastly inferior team.
That's right.
Just they dominated. I mean, they're a good team. Clemson sucks. And we now know that, and that kind of warms my heart to say that. The Clemson sucks. And that was a close game that they played. And Clemson came to play. They brought their all. I watched that game. And I want to see them play a good team. Now, they played LSU. LSU's defense isn't that good. I want to see them play a solid team defensively that can also threaten them on the offensive side of the ball. I want to see that happen. I don't know, after what we just saw last night with Georgia Tech and UNC, I don't know if that's going to happen until the playoffs.
Right. Washington knocked off Stanford 42-33. Penix showed up this week, other than last week when they didn't really play that well. Still won the game. Penix 369. I think it was at 5 touchdowns.
Yeah, and got to hand it to Washington. They beat Stanford. Didn't look great doing it. I mean, offensively they look good, but you can't let a team like Stanford hang around.
Right.
Stanford's not good, but every time they went to put the football game away, Stanford kind of made a play, and I don't know. I didn't think it was that bad of an effort. They scored a late touchdown, but the offense looked good. Just the defense, I think Oregon's a better football team.
I do too. I would agree with that.
And with Oregon leaving them points on the field.
Yes.
But Washington's good.
Yeah.
I think they're going to see a rematch in the Pac-12 championship.
Kansas knocked off Oklahoma 38-33. It's awesome.
So I had this game on the TV. I was watching the Florida State game, but I had this one on. And I noticed it was 14-0. I saw the pick six, and then I was doing something else, and I was like, oh, they scored again. And it was one of the situations where it was on in one of the rooms, and I was like going back and forth in other rooms. And I just kept looking, going, oh, holy crap. This game's pretty good. Oklahoma made a huge comeback. And then Kansas starts coming back. And I'm like, wow. And I saw Bean's touchdown run. And I really didn't see much anything else after that. But it was like every time I looked at the score, I was like, oh, look at this game. And I kept wanting to tune in and just never really did. We kind of got sidetracked with the end of the Florida State game, then putting on the cocktail party.
That's it.
Getting the food ready and everything, and all drinks, getting set up for the game. But Kansas, another one of those teams. A lot of teams in the Big 12. They showed the thing on ESPN today. There was like 5 teams at 4-1 in the conference, just going down the list. I don't think Kansas is in there. I think a couple losses maybe, but they're a good football team.
Yeah.
Oklahoma, huge disappointment.
Texas knocked off BYU 35-6. Didn't see any of this one.
Murphy didn't look too good offensively, in my opinion. They need Ewers back. I don't think they're winning the Big 12 with that kid at quarterback.
Yeah, well, I think Ewers will be back.
Yeah, I do too.
Weeks, but yeah. Oregon knocked off Utah 35-6. I think Oregon's starting to just establish themselves.
Yeah, and Utah's a good football team. Defensively, they're really good, and for Oregon to do what they did to Utah, Oregon, really showed me they didn't look so good last week. And then, after, the loss to Washington was a couple weeks ago, they didn't look great last week. And I kind of thought they were maybe hitting a lull until this game. I really thought Utah would give them a little bit more trouble. Nah, not at all.
No, definitely the elite team in the Pac-12. That one loss, that was a perfect game by Washington at home.
Pretty much, yeah.
So, what can you expect? Indiana put up a fight against Penn State, but Penn State prevails 33-24.
Yeah, Penn State almost let Ohio State beat them twice. And after huge disappointing loss last week to Ohio State, and they come back and win this game, and it's kind of like, whatever. We know what Penn State is. They're a 9-3, 10-2 team at best. That's their ceiling right now with Franklin, and that's not necessarily a bad thing.
No.
That's a good, respectable record. You go to a New Year's Six bowl game every now and again, like what last year. I think it was with the Big Ten having 2 teams in the playoff. Penn State got to go to the Rose Bowl. You're going to see that maybe every 5-6 years. They're going to go play in Florida. Good for them. That's what they are. Just embrace it, and I think they'll be much better off.
Oregon State loses to Arizona 27-24.
So this game was on the TV last night, I remember, but we kept falling asleep on the couch.
So we're like, I'm done.
So I didn't remember. I had to see the highlights this morning.
Yeah.
But I hate when that happens. I didn't get no sleep on Friday. I woke up crazy early, and then we were drinking, from like 2 o'clock till like 10:30, like nonstop drinking. and we just kind of hit a wall.
Yeah, we're not the spring chickens.
No, we're not. And I hate when that happens though, because we missed the late games.
Yeah, it is what it is. Let's see. Ole Miss knocked off Vandy 33-7.
Yeah, Ole Miss kind of controls their own destiny in the SEC. I mean, they've got one loss to Alabama. If Alabama loses to LSU, Ole Miss, if they win out, they could be going to the SEC championship game. I mean, the West is still wide open, as is the East, really.
Yeah. Notre Dame knocked off Pittsburgh 58-7.
Didn't see anything. That's good for Notre Dame.
Yeah. Now, one of the games of the night, North Carolina knocked off, Georgia Tech knocked off North Carolina 46-42.
You score 42 points, you got to win. And I didn't really watch a whole lot of this game. We tuned in at the end.
Yeah.
That's 2 losses in a row for North Carolina. The defense just looked horrible. If you look at the stats, it doesn't really look like Drake May played bad. But you can't, Georgia Tech, I would think they ran like 200 plus yards. Mm-hmm. You cannot let Georgia Tech do that to you. You can't let Georgia Tech, 46 points they scored. Yep. That's like a 5-game combined score usually for these guys. I don't know what to say. Yep. North Carolina, you've disappointed me.
Yep. They shit their bed more than...
every year they do it. Every year.
Amber Heard. Yep. Let's see. Louisville knocked off Duke 23-0. Looks like the... Duke train is falling off the tracks.
It's fell off the tracks. It was. I guess now as we know, Clemson sucks.
Yep.
So maybe that win wasn't as impressive as it was that week.
Yeah.
But that's still a huge win for Duke, and I kind of think they've kind of crashed and burned and come back to earth, so to speak. Louisville's a good football team.
Well, you get their quarterbacks tonight exactly 100%.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it showed.
Mm-hmm.
Air Force knocked off Colorado State 30-13. Of course, we didn't watch any of this one. Tennessee continues to get wins in the SEC, and they beat Kentucky 33-27.
Tennessee's a good football team. They lost to Alabama, which tends to happen to most teams. Mm-hmm. The inexplicable loss is to Florida.
Right.
Tennessee's high flying. They got a good run game. Defense is okay. They're going to give up some points. Giving up 27 to Kentucky, that's a lot of points for Kentucky. Devin Leonard looked good. That was probably the best game he's ever played in a Kentucky uniform. Yeah. I don't know. I think Tennessee's, they've got 2 SEC losses. They need Georgia to lose, and then they need to beat Georgia. Georgia can go 1 loss and lose to Tennessee, and Tennessee's still sitting their ass at home. Yeah. But they're a good football team. I don't want to say this is the ceiling because the defense is vastly improved from last year. I think their offense was much better last year with those multiple NFL wide receivers. And, I thought, I don't think Milton's as good as Hooker was.
No, Milton shows flashes of greatness. And it's kind of like Milroe with Bama. It's kind of like he looks really good at times, and then you're just like, what is he doing?
Yeah, and their run game is solid. Defense is solid. I think they're a good football team. Mm-hmm. I think they just had a really bad moment against Florida, just like they did last year at South Carolina.
Yeah. Tulane knocked off Rice 30-28. Didn't see any of this one.
Nope, either.
We watched some of the Colorado UCLA game. UCLA won 28-16.
I kind of had that game penciled in as a 50-50 game for Colorado. Yeah. I really thought they could take it. I really thought because Colorado, even though we've seen them get beat down physically before. The offensive line really can't handle it. Couldn't last night against UCLA. But we've seen them be able to score a lot of points on teams like USC. And, I think the only team that really got just dominated was Oregon. But they put up a fight against everybody else. Even though they lost some games, they put up a fight. Yeah. I honestly thought that they would put up more points against UCLA. I think that they're slowly, they just don't have it in the tank anymore. I think all the wear and tear is taking its toll on guys, and they just don't have it because they should have competed with UCLA.
Yeah, it's just it gets right down to it. They just don't have the horses right now. You give them another year or two, I think they'll be a much better, more stable program. USC got in a dogfight with Cal, 50-49, makes absolutely 0 sense.
Exactly, and they should have gone to overtime. Cal scored a late touchdown. Went for the 2-point conversion to win other than the safe play to kick the extra point, tie it up, go to OT. I kind of get it, They probably don't have confidence. Like, okay, we got to deal with Caleb Williams in OT format. I get it. That was still a bad call. Game started on a delay. I thought it was hilarious today at the. I was watching the highlights. And they said the game started because of a delay. It was a very Cal-related reason, which I thought was funny. Protest on the field, and I that shit doesn't happen in the SEC. No. That doesn't happen in the Big 12. I don't think that happens in the ACC or the Big 10. But they let them protest for a while.
Yeah. Clemson lost to NC State 24-17.
So sad.
And Jimbo is...
Jimbo? I mean, I still think...
Questions.
Yeah, I mean, they looked good yesterday. They played in South Carolina. Mm-hmm. I still don't think they let him go. Unless maybe they lose another game. Mm-hmm. I just have a hard time believing that they're going to fire him. Mm-hmm. I mean, they should. I just don't think it's going to happen. Yeah. Kansas State with a nice win, real nice win over Houston.
Yep.
West Virginia beat UCF. Didn't see that coming because the UCF looked really good the week before.
Yeah.
Almost taking Oklahoma to the shed, and then, of course, Kansas did that this week.
Yep.
It was a good week of football.
It was.
Auburn gets in the win column against Mississippi State. I called that. Mm-hmm. Good for Auburn. They needed that win. Peyton Thorne looked really good yesterday. I mean, he didn't throw for a ton, 230, but he looked good. Yeah. Miami won. I saw that they kind of struggled a little bit against Virginia. Mm-hmm. You can't lose to Virginia, much like North Carolina did last week. Yeah. But they went to overtime. That's not a great look for Miami. And you got to win that game handily.
They just don't have any enthusiasm anymore.
Miami's only hanging around because of NIL.
That's right.
I don't think Crystal Ball's a good coach. I don't think they got too many great players, but they're signing a lot of guys due to NIL.
Well, let's talk about next week's games. If I can get it pulled up without any issues. Maybe. Oh, look at that. Come on. Little spinner-Rooney. Hey, there we go. So, the action starts Tuesday night. We got Northern Illinois taking on Central Michigan. Yay.
Halloween?
Yeah, Halloween
I'll probably tune into one of those games after I bring my daughter home from trick-or-treating.
Yeah, we got Wednesday night action as well. We got Ball Street and Bowling Green. Kent, Akron.
Thursday looks pretty good.
Yeah, TCU and Texas Tech. That's a big game. Wake Forest and Duke. Pretty awesome. Friday night, we got some Boston College and Syracuse action. We'll be at the concert.
We won't be watching any of the games Friday night. We'll be at Metallica.
That's right.
But Saturday looking pretty good. You got, Ohio State at Rutgers, blah, blah, blah. Nothing big there. Wow, Notre Dame going to Clemson. That's another loss by Clemson. They should be 4-5.
Yeah, we got Kansas State and Texas. That could be an interesting matchup.
Really interesting. Kansas State's not a bad football team at all.
No. Oh, Tennessee's got a little cupcake action with UConn.
Arkansas, Florida, that's a tough game. Is Florida going to right the ship, or is Arkansas going to just ruin somebody's season? If you're Florida, you're penciling this game as a win at the beginning of the season. Yeah. I've talked about it before. KJ Jeffers is not good at quarterback.
You got to get this win.
But, they need this win. Sam Pittman is probably going to get canned if they lose this game.
Which was kind of unfortunate.
I know.
Really good coach.
There's nobody more Arkansas than that guy. Right. But if you're Florida, you got it. You can't let Arkansas beat you. You can't let Georgia beat you 2 weeks in a row. Mm-hmm. Wisconsin and Indiana, Nebraska, Michigan State, none of these games mean anything. It's
Utah, Arizona State.
Big Ten.
Let's see. You got Air Force Army. You got Georgia, Missouri, 3:30 game.
Yep, that's a game I can see Georgia getting, tested.
Yeah.
Florida State, Pittsburgh. I don't really think Pittsburgh's got it. That game right there, 3:30, Bedlam. Oklahoma State.
Yeah. Was it
Oklahoma State's
Gordon?
coming along. They're 4-1 in conference. They can look. Oklahoma's still in this thing.
Yeah.
All right. I don't think they're in for the playoff. Maybe if weird stuff happens.
Everything has to go right.
But Oklahoma State's playing some good football. They can just completely ruin. Oklahoma State can completely ruin Oklahoma's season.
For what I'm hearing,
and vice versa.
This Ollie Gordon kid from Oklahoma State is probably the best running back in the country.
Yeah.
Playing pretty well.
I mean, they've got a few losses. If Oklahoma State loses this game, they're pretty much done. But they're 4-1 in conference, so they're right in the thick of things for conference play.
Mm-hmm. Penn State, Maryland, Louisville, Virginia Tech. Let's see what else we got going.
James Madison's on the 25 ranked team in the country.
Yeah.
You got to be kidding me.
Yeah, they've been 25 for 2 weeks now. You got Illinois at Minnesota.
I'm doing a college football YouTube show, and I don't know shit about James Madison. All right, sue me.
Yeah. Auburn at Vanderbilt. Let's see what
Cal at Oregon. 5:30.
Yeah. Interesting time slot. What else we got?
Washington at USC. 7:30. That'd be a great game. Got LSU at Alabama. 7:45. That'll be the game of the night, Saturday night.
Yeah.
I'll watch a little. Try to watch as much of that game as I can. I don't know where we're going to be Saturday night, but hopefully wherever we're at, we're going to be able to watch that game.
That's right.
Miami at NC State. Look, the way Miami's been playing, that could be a close game.
Oregon State, Colorado at 10 o'clock. And then you get the late game is UCLA, Arizona.
Again, that Colorado or Oregon State game, I expect Oregon State to win, but Colorado, with the weapons they have on offense, they should be able to put up some points. You never know.
That's right. Man, that kind of concludes this week's slate of games. Next week's slate of games, we're coming down the tracks now.
Yeah,
We're
next week's show might get kind of interesting. It might be done in a hotel room or maybe on the interstate coming home.
However we need to do it.
Yeah.
We can do it with my smartphone. All right. Well, I guess we'll see you guys next week one way or the other.
See you guys.
All right.